Good. Yes, then we will wait this one more minute. I think we can see already several people joining, and so we will be having a nice Friday lunch talk at the German time, at least European time. I also invited, by the way, there is the policy, the Public School of Governance here in the Technical University of Munich, which is a very recent established school, but with very important speakers and directors. And I also passed this information to them because I think the students of political science would be also interested in this kind of talk. All right, I think we can start. Hermann will open the room for us, and I will welcome now all our viewers to this talk today in our series of Talking Heads, which is a talk session format which has been established a couple of years ago, where we invite talking heads, people who shape and do research in the field of security. And it is my great honor to welcome today our speaker, who is connected now from Japan, from Tokyo in Japan, where it is, of course, already 8 o'clock in the evening, Professor Tsuchiya from Keio University. Thank you for joining. And before we will hear his talk, it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome also the Consul General from Japan here in Munich, Mr. Nobutaka Maekawa. Mr. Maekawa has been working in the field of security for a number of years in different roles. He joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs already in 1987 and held different positions and management positions through all his diplomatic career. I read that he was also responsible when he was the director of the Institute of International Affairs for geopolitics and maritime security in East Asia. So there has been already touch with the subject of security in his career. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency, Mr. Maekawa. Mr. Maekawa, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Murin. So, on behalf of the Japanese government, I'd like to welcome all the participants to this event. So, since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, cybersecurity has become more crucial on a daily basis than ever before, as increasing online events, routinized teleworks, and other business occasions in digital way show. Mounting activities in cyberspace bring together more loopholes there, which are favorite food for black hackers and malicious attackers. Long before the corona pandemic breakout, cybersecurity has been a more vital role in the context of keeping alive the global structure of freedom, democracy, and the rule-based order, to be seen that there are worldwide drastically increasing cases of cyber attacks and damages suspicious of involvements of Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and so on. Against this background, Japan has been promoting cybersecurity diplomacy on the basis of enhancing, implementing the rule of law and strengthening cooperation and support with and for allied and like-minded countries. From the security point of view, Japan has formulated the active cyber defense policy over the past years to provide more security in cyberspace. For both crucial agenda, technical development, and adequate application of international law in the area, further deepened cooperation between Germany and Japan as reliable partners sharing common values are mostly expected to lead to further steps to a strengthened cybersecurity. Today, we have invited Professor Tsuchiya of Keio University, the leading prominent expert of cybersecurity in Japan. He will give a speech on the current situation and challenges in the area of cybersecurity, as well as countermeasures to be taken and Japanese initiatives in this field. To take this opportunity, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the co-organizer Security Network Munich, hosting the yearly Japanese-German Security Forum, as well as the Munich Cybersecurity Conference, for their contribution to Japanese-German cooperation in the field of cybersecurity so far. To conclude, I would be happy today's event would lead to deepening understanding of all the participants on the newest situation of cyberspace and possible future cooperation in terms of Western alliance, among others with Germany and Europe, in the scope of the leading role of the upcoming US new administration. And I also hope today's opportunity would lead to further bilateral fruitful cooperation as a significant event in the year of the 160th anniversary of Japan-Germany diplomatic relation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maekawa-san, for your opening remarks. Indeed, you mentioned the new incoming administration in the US government, which certainly will have also maybe some impact in this world stage of geopolitics with regard to cybersecurity, which is the topic of our talk today. We have as our guest Professor Motohiro Tsuchiya. He is a very knowledgeable expert in this field of cybersecurity from Keio University, where he is the Dean and Professor of the Faculty of Policy Management. If you look at his webpage, you can see a whole number of books published by him, also in English. His latest book, which at the moment is only available in Japan in Japanese, which because it was published very recently last year, is called Cyber Great Game: Geopolitics of Politics, Economy, Technology, and Data. So it is practically nailing, the title of that book is nailing more or less the topic of our talk today. Professor Tsuchiya was our guest 2 years ago at the Munich Cybersecurity Conference. That's where we met for the first time. He is also a member of the editorial board of Nikkei newspaper, business newspaper, where he is, of course, offering commentary on everything related to cyber. It is our great pleasure that he was making himself available. He's working day and night. So it was a great privilege to receive his time today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome now Professor Motohiro Tsuchiya from Keio University. Please, Tsuchiya-san, the stage is yours.
Dankeschön. Guten Morgen. Ich habe vor 25 Jahren Deutsch gelernt, aber ich habe es leider vergessen. Trotzdem vielen Dank für diese Gelegenheit. Thank you very much. I wish I could be in Munich today. In Tokyo, we are seeing the third surge of COVID-19, and our vaccination will start late next month, much slower than Europe. It might take some time before I can fly to Munich, but as Peter said, 2 years ago, I joined Munich Cybersecurity Conference. It was a really fascinating experience. I want to thank Peter for arranging this, and I also want to thank Consul General Mr. Maekawa for his opening remarks and supporting this event. So I want to share my slides. Yeah, today's topic is geopolitics and the geoeconomics of submarine cables. But first, I want to introduce an idea called Society 5.0, coined by the Japanese government a few years ago. Yes. So society 1.0 is hunting and gathering in the ancient society. It's very old one. But after that, we have the society 2.0. It's agriculture society, as you imagine. And after that, we have the society 3.0. It's an industrial society. Now, we're in the society 4.0. It's information age. And in the future, we are heading towards super smart society. That's a society 5.0. We still don't know the details of the society 5.0, but the Japanese government says it is a human-centered society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems by a system that highly integrates cyberspace and physical space. So Japan was a top runner in ICT policy 20 years ago, but now we are somehow lagged behind. So lagged behind European countries, Asian countries, and the United States. But we want to come back again. So we want to do our society more convenient and more efficient and more competitive. But today, so we will talk about cybersecurity. But I want to focus on physical side of cybersecurity. So people always tend to talk about a penetration or hacking or maybe fake news or something in cybersecurity these days. But I want to focus on a physical side of cybersecurity today. Let's go back to the history. 1851, the first undersea cable was laid in the English Channel between France and England. Just 20 years later, 1871, the first submarine cable reached Japan. It was laid between Nagasaki, Japan, and Shanghai, China. So it was a big innovation for us. Before the undersea cable, we couldn't communicate beyond the ocean. So we needed a ship to send a letter to somebody else over the across the ocean. But undersea cable was really big innovation at that time. So this is a slice of the oldest undersea cable laid in Japan. So it was picked up several years ago in Japan, and it's now being showed in a museum in Japan. But so we have a better submarine cable, but the structure of the cables are not so much different from that day and today. This is the oldest submarine cable landing station. So we have these kind of landing stations all over the world. So this is a very important, critical infrastructure 100 years ago. At that time, British Empire was dominating international traffic of telegraph messages. So they called it all red line. So in late 19th century, British Empire occupied more than 60% of all the undersea cable all over the world. So it was very critical infrastructure to communicate with overseas colonies for the British Empire. So other countries, including Japan, wanted to catch up, but it was quite difficult at that time. So the structure is almost same. So now we have the internet. The internet itself is not American network, but it was invented by the US, and American influence is very much powerful than other countries. So 100 years ago, the British Empire was very powerful in this global communication. But 1914, August 4th, in the North Sea in Europe, we saw this ship. So this ship picked up German cables at the bottom of the North Sea. The British picked up German cables and they cut the cables and destroyed the communication between Germany and other countries. It was a big surprise for the German people at that time. But so during the wartime, everything was destroyed. After the World War I, we had the World War II. During the Second World War, we lost most of the undersea cables, and communications went wireless. At that time, so military forces were using the wireless communication. It was also a big innovation at that time. We are using mobile phones every day today, but so at that time, 100 years ago, these communication devices were occupied by the military forces only. After the Second World War, 1957, the Soviet Union launched artificial satellites called Sputnik. It was also a big shock for us. So the Western part of the world was very supplied with the Soviet technology to send something to the outer space. And after that, artificial satellites were a very powerful tool for international communication until 1980s. In 1986, there was another big innovation. It was an optic fiber submarine cable. Optic fiber has much faster communication, much more bandwidth than copper wire. So this innovative technology changed the world of communication. So maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, more than 40 years, but I'm not sure. But so the international telephone call was very slow. So if I say hello, so somebody says after several seconds, hello. So this kind of delay of communication was normal thing. But after the submarine cable with optic fiber, the world changed a lot. Today, we have a lot of undersea cables all over the world. We are connected through these cables. Here is the transatlantic cable. There are many cables between Europe and North America. And Germany is not dependent on undersea cables anymore. So maybe you are using landline cables to other European countries. But if you look at France is a very important gateway. So Marseille has a big cable landing station. These cables go to the Middle East through the Mediterranean Sea. And after passing through the Middle East, these cables go to Asia and East Asia. We are connected through these cables. Now, after the pandemic of COVID-19, we are dependent on online communication, telework or telemedicine or teleeducation. We are using these kind of cables. Now I'm talking in Tokyo. I'm speaking from Tokyo to you. I'm using undersea cables. We are dependent on these cables. In Japan's case, 99% of international traffic goes through undersea cables. Just 1% is through artificial satellites. Satellites are expensive and slower than undersea cables. So if we want to use YouTube, so you have to use undersea cables for communication. But now we are talking about cyber war. So as I said, if we talk about cybersecurity, we tend to focus on software, penetration, computer virus, or hacking, or those kind of things. But we say it was the change of operational domains. So this kind of discussion was done during the Obama administration in the United States. But the conventional operational domains were land, sea, and air. Now, as you know, the fourth operational domain is outer space, and the fifth operational space is cyberspace. But what is cyberspace? That's my question. Cyberspace is just an aggregation of communication devices. Maybe you are using iPad or mobile phone or laptop computer to watch this video. These kind of devices are connected through wireless or wired communication channels. Those devices are connected through communication channels to storage devices in data centers. So these are very physical existence. This is a real figure of cyberspace. People say the internet is kind of cloud, but this cloud is not floating in the sky. This cloud is based on the ground. Many of you might be using the Gmail. What is a real figure of Gmail? Gmail is this. This is a picture of data center owned by Google. This data center is owned by Google. Servers in this data center are owned by Google. How about the data? Data inside servers in this data center are owned by Google. The data, your email message are not yours. Google is owning your data. So several years ago, I took a sabbatical leave from my university.
Your slides are not showing. You're not switching the slides probably somehow. Probably your slides switching a different screen or something because we cannot see the slides you're talking about.
Really? Not at all?
Oh, now it's working. Now it's working. Okay. Now it's fine. Yeah.
How about this one?
Switch to the presentation mode for the slides, Tsuchiya-san, because we see the whole monitor image. But if you
This
start
is working.
presentation, yeah, we can see it, but we see also the menu and the font size and everything. So if you can activate the presentation mode, then maybe we can.
Can you see it now? This is a presentation mode, actually.
Okay, then maybe we see. The presentation mode, probably you have the, there are two windows. One that you can see as a presenter, and this is
No, I'm not using it.
So okay, Well, anyway,
okay.
so you see now the beach picture, and also.
Okay,
the
I will go through this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
If you
the
don't
one.
mind.
That's what we see. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you didn't see any slides before this?
No, we were looking at the geographic. Sorry,
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's very unfortunate.
Anyway,
Okay.
we'll follow now. Okay.
Okay. Then I took a sabbatical leave from my university several years ago. This is a picture of Hawaii. And so when I walking around the Hawaii streets, I found this cover. This is the cover on the street in the usual Hawaii streets, but it says C&C traffic signal. So I was interested, and I opened up. So this is not the internet, but this is the kind of cyber system. So cyber space is becoming bigger than the internet. So we say internet is connecting everything. It's not true. And if you see this kind of box on the street, so I opened up, so you will see some systems, computer system inside the box. So this is not the internet, but this is a cyber system. So cyberspace is becoming bigger and bigger these days. It's wider than the real internet. So if you go down underground of the Tokyo streets, you will see this kind of tunnels. So these tunnels are made maybe several decades ago So these pipes, these cables are installed in the tunnel. So if you want to stop the communication in Tokyo, you don't have to send any computer viruses to computers, but you can go down to the tunnel and you can destroy these cables. You will lose communication. So if you want to cut my cable, you can come to my house and you can cut my cable. I will lose my communication at home. I'm worrying about Japan. Japan is an island country. So as I said, 99% of international communication goes through undersea cables in Japan. So when I was in Hawaii, I was thinking about it. I went to Hanauma Bay. Hanauma Bay is a very famous spot for tropical fish. But in this point, there's something. I went to this beach because I found this picture in a library. So coral was brewed up by dynamite in 1956. What happened? They installed undersea cables in this beautiful bay. I hope it works. I'm not sure. But this is a movie of undersea cables at the bottom of the Hanauma Bay. You will see two lines. This is an old undersea cable. So it might be easy to find these cables at the bottom of the sea. So someone might cut this cable, destroy this cable. So it really happened in 2013. So 3 men were arrested while cutting these cables. It might have, I don't know why they did it, but it really happened. This is a New York Times article several years ago, 5 years ago. It says Russian submarines and spy ships are aggressively operating near the American coast to identify the location of undersea cables. So CNN showed us this picture. So unmanned vehicle at the bottom of the sea might break cables of other countries. So James Stavridis, famous retired admiral of the US Navy, said, China's next naval target is the internet's underwater cables, submarine cables. Really happens? I'm worrying about it. But while I was in Hawaii, I thought something else. I went to this beach, Makaha Beach. It's not a popular beach for tourists, but it's a beautiful beach anyway. I went to this beach because I found this map in a library. This map says there are a lot of cables buried in the bottom of the sea. This is a coastline. But on the shore side, there is a manhole for maintenance. And I went there and I found a manhole. And I opened it. No, I found this picture online, but something like this. So it's quite easy to break cables. You don't have to go dive into the bottom of the sea. You can find cables on shore. And we know each other where these cables are located. In Japan's case, Tokyo and Shima are 2 points are concentrated place. In Korea, Busan. In Taiwan, north side, south side. In China, Shanghai, Shantou, and Hong Kong. So when I go overseas, I try to find location of cable landing stations. The upper left is Japanese, Maruyama Station, and upper right is UK, one of the oldest cable landing station. Lower left is Singapore. It's close to the Changi Airport. The lower right is Taiwan. So we know each other where those cables are. But who are producing cables? That's the geo-economical side of the undersea cables. So Subcom, American company, is taking 40%. Japanese company NEC is taking 30%. European company Alcatel is taking 20%. But until recently, Huawei from China was taking less than 10%. But after the US-China technology conflict, so Huawei sold this part of the company to Henton, another Chinese company. So Huawei is not owning subsidiary company producing undersea cable anymore, but something different. So if we want to install undersea cables at the bottom of the sea, we will do kind of this project. So we will draw a cable from a cable ship to shore, and we will bury these cables in the beach sand. And we will pick this cable inside the cable landing station near the shore, and we will draw these cables into the building. And inside the building, we will have several devices, machines. One of them is power feeding equipment. And another one, more important one, is SLTE. It means submarine line terminal equipment. This picture is Huawei's SLTE. So cable itself is just an optic fiber coated by metals. But more important part of undersea cable is these devices. These devices are dealing with the optic signal into converting into the electronic signal or something like that. So it's very important devices. These SLTE are produced by Japanese company, American companies, European companies, and the Chinese company. Chinese company is Huawei Marine Networks. So Huawei is still maintaining this part of the cable business. One day, I realized this cable, sail cable between Brazil and Cameroon. This cable is owned by two companies. One is Cameroon Telecom, Camtel. It's quite natural. But second owner of this cable is China Unicom. This cable is not at all connected to China. But China is investing money into cable in far away from Chinese land. This kind of activities made a kind of anxiety in the US government under President Trump. So Pacific Light Cable Network was rejected by the US government. This cable is owned by Google, Facebook, and Dr. Penn. Dr. Penn is the one of the Chinese telecom company. Why? We don't know. But at that time, we had a huge demonstration in Hong Kong, and the US government is worrying about Hong Kong situation. And August last year, Secretary Pompeo said undersea cables are tools for the Chinese Communist Party and serious threats to privacy of US citizens. That's why he rejected cables between US and Hong Kong. And he also said we should have clean network, clean carrier, clean apps, clean store, clean cloud, clean cable, clean path. How we can make undersea cables clean? It's a very difficult task, technical challenge. But he said, he listed clean cable, clean network operators in the world. He excluded Chinese companies. Of course, the Chinese company was angry. So they said China always strongly opposes to cyber espionage attacks. So when I talk to the Chinese scholars these days, they say U.S. Clean Network plan is trying to divide, balkanize the cyberspace. How we can do? What should we do? So Japanese government was happy to host Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, but now it's becoming more and more difficult. Of course, the COVID-19 is the biggest problem for us, but we are also worrying about cyber attacks against games and against Japan. Now we are trying to make an international cooperation to defend us and defend the games, but we are not sure. So we need cybersecurity cooperation. Again, so the Japanese government is trying to promote Society 5.0. We want to make the cyberspace in a better place for everybody. So we want to make our society in the future in a better place. So this is my last slide. So geopolitics and geoeconomics of submarine cables. So submarine cables are a strategic asset in Society 5.0. If we want to do it, we need to secure and cleaner cables for everybody. How we can protect them physically and in the software, and how we can use them for cybersecurity. So it's quite a difficult task for us. So it's not a challenge for only Japan, but also for other countries too. We want to make a better arrangement for good physical cybersecurity. I want to stop here. Thank you very much, Peter-san.
Thank you so much, Tsuchiya-san, for your presentation. And I'm sorry that we didn't intervene before regarding the slides. But again, at least the good thing when you don't have something to look at the new slides, you listen to the speaker, which this is what I did, and I thought maybe the nature of your presentation is exactly that. We have that historical map, and then we just listen to you, and everything is fine. But
many apologies
for this extensive set of images and slides to your presentation. Yeah, so this is now the time to take also questions from our viewers. We have viewers here in the system. Not everyone is able to connect to the big blue button software, because the VPN channels sometimes, because of firewall configurations, take out the port that is exactly the audio channel, sort of, and then they have to follow us on YouTube on the live stream. So again, apologies for that, but the idea was to use this system also a little bit in this philosophy of open source and a system that is not controlled by one party or one country in that sense.
I understand.
Yes. So coming back to your talk, so that the cyberspace practically boils down to submarine cables or to hardware. You know that we have this discussion in the US this year, or last year, but also in Europe and probably in Asia as well, with regard to what they call digital sovereignty. So the question of being dependent on other technology providers from countries who might be using those technologies also to have influence to other regions and other and to pursue their political interests, as you have shown with the line between Brazil and Cameroon, for instance. So one key aspect is always the 5G technology, the next generation mobile networks. How, in your opinion, does this, the mobile network, first, it seems to be a mobile technology, not a submarine-based cable technology, but of course, in the end, that traffic also goes through those cables. But maybe what is your view and the view of the Japanese government on the 5G topic, and and how do they negotiate this view with their partners, or with respect to their alliances?
Yes, a few years ago, I talked with American admiral. So he was a Navy guy, so he didn't know much about the technology, but he misunderstood that if we use 5G technology, so whole network is occupied by 5G technology. So if we talk on a mobile phone, if I say hello to you in Germany, so he misunderstood that all 5G technologies are used whole the line, but it's not true. So 5G technology is just short distance from my mobile phone to the wireless station. It's very short distance actually. After that, we use optic fibers and undersea cables to connect to Germany. And after landing Germany, it goes to the somewhere, and wireless antenna will catch the signal and try to find your mobile phone. So in that short distance, we use the 5G technology. The 5G technology is just part of the whole technology. But if we dependent on mobile phones, so we should worry about the security of 5G technology. And in Japan's case, we have several companies, including NEC and other companies, can produce 5G mobile sets. But our problem is not cheap enough. We want to make them more innovative, cheaper, and more available for everyone. So our population is shrinking these days. So Japanese market is not big enough. So we have to export our technologies for developing countries and the US and European countries. So we have to do some efforts to make our products cheaper. But we are very much eager to invest in 5G technology. One evidence is that NEC and NTT, NEC is the IT producer, a device maker, and NTT is a carrier, one of the biggest carrier in Japan. They made an alliance. So they want to invest in 5G technology more in the future.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're right. It's a very small part of the whole communication chain, but still the fear that some, controllable components in those devices that are referring to the wireless part of the communication would open, certain possibilities, technical possibilities to kind of enter those communications and eavesdrop those communications.
Yeah.
We got a couple of questions here. For one is regarding to the submarine infrastructure on the cables. Who is controlling the undersea cables in the South China Sea? Is it China and Russia are they going to build undersea connections via North Pole because of global warming, that these kind of new routes would be available? Is there any information that you have on this area of that, where of course we have those powers involved, Russia and China, as you have mentioned in your presentation? So who is controlling those cables?
Yeah, that's an important point. So we are discussing those points almost every day. So in South China Sea, or maybe Singapore is the most concentrated place for undersea cables. So a lot of cables go through the of the sea of the Singapore. But those cables are owned by, mostly owned by private companies. So if we want to connect a cable between China and Japan, so a Japanese company investing and the Chinese company investing, sometimes maybe Taiwan company or American company joining in. So those cables are owned by multiple companies. So those cables are controlled by those companies, not by the governments in usual sense. But in China, in Russia, or other authoritarian countries, those governments might have more power than us. over those cables. That's we are worrying about it. But it's quite easy to eavesdrop those cables in a technical sense. But in a political sense, it's quite difficult for us in Germany, in Japan, and other parts of the world. For example, Japan this is a constitutional problem, actually. I should not problem, but constitutional issue. Because Article 21 of the Japanese Constitution says we have to respect people's secrecy of communication. So that's why we don't have NSA, we don't have GCHQ in Japan. So our government is not eavesdropping via intercepting communications. Maybe Germany has also the same kind of stricter regulation over eavesdropping other people's communication. But so this point is dependent on the regime of the government. And Arctic cable, yes, it's a hot issue actually. So ice in the Arctic is melting down. So there are two routes. The one route is going through, going alongside of the Canadian territory. And the another one is going through the alongside of the Russian territory. Which is better? We don't know. But we are hoping, Japanese companies are hoping for the Canadian route to connect to London in the UK or European countries. We don't know, but they are competing. And some cables are coming into Japan, almost reaching Japan, but not yet. So we hope we can have a better route, secure route to European countries.
Is it actually feasible that Western, powers can route their traffic through cables that are independent from Russia or China?
It might be difficult, actually. So they can have kind of sovereignty over the physical existence in their territories. And in Canadian case, it's something different, but almost same. So Canadian military forces are eager to invest in Arctic cables, actually. So they are in the very north. They cannot use satellites for military communication. So they are interested in using undersea cables for military communication. So that's why Canada is also eager to invest in Arctic cable, actually. So every government is interested in undersea cables today.
So everyone is setting up their own, yeah, I understand. We got a question also from Sabina Wolf. If there are known cases where the cables from manufacturers had been compromised.
Yeah, cable itself is not compromised. It's quite difficult, actually. So in the coaxial, I cannot speak well, but so copper wire, yeah, was easy to eavesdrop, actually. But optic fiber sends optic signals, not electronic signals. Computers don't understand optic signals. Computers need electronic signals. So it's almost impossible to eavesdrop signals at the bottom of the sea. So there are repeaters in the bottom of the sea. So maybe every 20 kilometers or something. But now they are having a better equipment. So it means that they do not transfer optic signals into electronic signals. So they are just sending optic signals. So it's almost difficult to wiretap optic signals at the bottom of the sea. Then, so every government or every bad guys are going to the cable landing stations. Cable landing station is much easier and much more important for everybody. So if you can catch optic signals at cable landing station, you can copy signals for you and other people. So we have to control, regulate cable landing station. That's more important part of the cable system.
Right, thank you. There is a question also going in that direction. As you mentioned, the physical properties of optic fiber is, protecting sort of the information that goes through. But if we talk the end-to-end communication, as you say, there's the SLTEs and then the following routers and network computers involved. What is your opinion? Should there be a regulation to encrypt data by the endpoints, for instance, right from the landing point where the cables arrive, or by the telecom operators? Is there a view from in your point of view that is to recommend?
As far as I understand, so telecom operators are using the encrypted communications through submarine cables these days. So someone was trying to understand what kind of data is running through cables, and they found that they couldn't understand because most of the data was encrypted. And in some cases, operators owning their own fibers, but other third-party companies sometimes buy those cables or maybe wavelengths. So there's a very complex way of owning data inside the submarine cables these days. So I hope everyone can encrypt data for yourself today. So I want to use the encrypted data. So I have very important 3 persons in my private life. So I try to send encrypted data to these 3 people. So I have to use secure communication for these important people. I hope more people use encrypted data, and I hope carriers use more secure communications.
Mm-hmm. We got a comment. This is not a question, just a comment, but maybe it would be interesting to hear your opinion. We have, we describe here also geopolitics and the actors behind or the interests behind. Miss or Mr. Nguyen comments that always when there is some dispute between Vietnam and China, the connection in the South China Sea cables seems to be sort of hampered, and so as a means of, so there is some power game using those infrastructures to control whether the communications are running smoothly or not. So in your view, so is cyber actually an extension of power politics, and what are the main actors or the main groups who are to be mentioned in the domain of cyber?
Yeah, I sometimes talk with the cable industry people. They don't like my argument at all. So they say, oh, you should not talk about it. It's not a new issue at all. So Germany lost cables during World War I. Yes, it's true. And it might happen in the future too. And so, but it's quite complicated these days. So before the Second World War, cables are owned by governments or government-affiliated companies. During that times, telecom operators were owned by governments. It was easy to control communications. But now, in democratic countries, carriers are private companies. They have their own customers. So the government is one of their customers. So they have some tensions. And now, GAFA, Google, Facebook, or other platformers are interested in investing undersea cables. So they were not old carriers. They were new platformers, but they want to have a faster communication with other parts of the world. So they are now investing on the undersea cables. So the situation is becoming more complex and complex. So Google, Facebook, those companies were interested in investing in China, but Chinese government is rejecting them. they are trying to negotiate the market entry conditions. So those kind of things might happening in all over the world. So I don't know the details between China and Vietnam, but so those kind of things might be happening between the two governments.
Right. We have, in the end of last year, learned the news of the infiltration of sensitive infrastructures, computer networks in the US public administration domain through, the regular update of their network management system, which was infiltrated. And so this kind of operations seem to be conducted not really from the criminal syndicate, but more from other interests. This kind of, it's not related now to the submarine cables, but what is your view on this? Where is this arena, this operational arena? What is your view in the development of these attacks or of these operations, of these clandestine operations? Will they increase, and when will they become actually hot, so that some real military or armed conflict will result?
Yeah, I want to know more about those operations, but usually those operations are secret, so I don't have the detailed information about those things. But so as Edward Snowden revealed, so National Security Agency of the US is using undersea cables for their operations, and GCHQ is helping or coordinating operations with the NSA. I'm sure other governments are doing the same thing. Unfortunately, except the Japanese government. So, but I hope we can do it under the democratic control. So we have to defend ourselves. We have to worry about the cyber attacks are coming from other countries. I talked about the Olympic Games, but we are seeing a lot of cyber incidents against Japanese companies these days, including Mitsubishi Electronic, NEC, and Capcom, and the other companies. So we were targeted and by foreign governments, foreign non-governmental actors, or maybe profit companies. We don't. Its attribution is always difficult. And they might be using this kind of software and hardware for their purposes. They don't care. So they do everything for what they want. So it's quite difficult to stop these operations.
Is there a political framework in the policy-making domain? You are also a member of the Commission for safety and security. Yeah, exactly. That will regulate the cyber defense tools or reactions.
Yes, I was one of the commissioners of Global Commission for the Stability of Cyberspace. So we published a report December 2019, and we published 8 norms. It's not our norms are not part of the governmental treaty. It is very difficult to make a treaty for cyberspace. So, but we want to set up some norms for every government to follow. So one of them, the first norm is public core, we call it. So we should protect the public core of the internet for everybody. So I think undersea cables is part of the public core of the internet. So we have, including bad guys, have incentives to communicate. So the internet cyberspace is the basis for everyone, including hackers. So we should protect the core of the communication. We should not break those things. It's easy to break, but it's very difficult to restore. So we should not repeat the two world wars. So we should protect these physical things for everyone. So I hope the GCSC norms work for everyone. So we are trying to publicize these norms for everyone. So now I don't think there are many Japanese audience today, but I'm trying to publish a Japanese version earlier this year. And I think 7 or 6 languages are available for GCSC report. I hope everyone can read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe one last question. Of course, you are also a member of the Space Security Division of the Committee on National Space Policy at the Cabinet Office in the Japanese government. What is happening there? What is, we have a submarine, you said the satellite communications are just a very tidy little part of those internet communications you explained, but still you are a member of that group. So will space gain importance also in this cyber context, and will it be designed already in a secure way to learn from maybe mistakes that we had with the current version of the internet?
Yes, it's an interesting question. So the Space Policy Commission of the Japanese government invited me to join National Security Division. To be honest, I'm not expert of space technology, space policy, but they were interested in cybersecurity. So they are worrying about cyber attacks happening in outer space. And one interesting exercise was done last year at the DEF CON in Las Vegas in the US. So they called the exercise called HackAsat, hacking a satellite. And they were very successful to hacking satellite software. And they could manage the movement of the satellite in the orbit.
Okay.
So it's possible. So so space people were not much interested in software security, but now we have to care about it. There are many kinds of satellites. So for communication, broadcasting, or surveillance, or military, so we have to worry about these assets in outer space.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Tsuchiya, for this extensive talk on the critical infrastructure which holds together the internet, the core, which is of benefit, of course, for the whole world, but also attracts the political interests of different governments and countries. It was a very insightful talk, and again, if for our viewers, if you want to follow Mr. Tsuchiya's work, he is having a blog where you can at least get some idea what has been published and what kind of research he's doing. We hope also to have him as a guest again at this year's Munich Cybersecurity Conference in the end of April. Will it be virtual or physical is to be seen, but at least we hope he will be available again. Thank you so much for connecting and for watching this talk. We will have our next talk already on coming Tuesday. This time we talk about quantum computing and the algorithms necessary to make use of the properties of quantum physics. And if you want to join, please look at the website and register, or watch it on our YouTube channel. Said this, I wish you a very pleasant evening to Tokyo, Mr. Tsuchiya-san. Thank you. And
thank you very much.
Viewers here in Europe, a pleasant afternoon and a nice weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good break and a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. My pleasure.